Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Give a Hoot podcast. This is episode 2, and once again, my name is Enrique. Today, we're going to be focusing more on the academic side of UCSC. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Give a Hoot with Kresge Parliament podcast. I hope you're doing well during midterm season, and before we get started, please remember to practice in self-care during these very stressful times. Whether that's making sure you get enough sleep, drink enough water, or even just eat healthy. So this episode, we're going to talk about financial aid and finances in general. The first topic I'm going to talk about is FAFSA. So what is FAFSA? Well, it stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And for the majority of students, it is a major contributor to financial aid, and it's heavily encouraged to fill these out as soon as you can each year when it's opened on October 1st. Now, because it opens October 1st, that means you can actually start filling out your FAFSA now. I know personally, I sometimes forget to fill it out until around February, but sooner is always better than later. So if you have any free time, whether that's a winter break or just a weekend, make sure you carve out some time in your day to fill out your FAFSA. Now, what's actually inside the financial aid package can be seen on your My UCSC portal. There's grants, which is money that you have no need to repay. It's often in the form of the federal Pell Grant, which is one of the biggest grants available from the federal government. Most grants are actually awarded based on financial need, so the more you need, the more you're likely to get. There's also scholarships. These are often independent and can either be merit or need-based. There's also no need to repay these, but it will affect your financial aid. The amount in scholarships vary from a couple $100s to a full ride scholarship that covers all years of schooling. There's also work study, which depending on need, you may be eligible for work study programs administered by the school. You are limited to a certain amount of hours to balance an academic and work-life balance. Here at UCSC, it's typically 20 hours, which pays out bi-weekly. So you would be able to work 10 hours a week. And how work study works is you basically get a job with the school. Traditionally, the most common work study job is working in the dining halls. However, there are lots of different work study jobs available. Myself, I work as a programs assistant for the Kresge Programs office, and that's really cool because I basically get paid to put on events for the Kresge community. In your financial aid portal, there can also be loans, and there are 3 different types of loans offered in financial aid packages. One is a subsidized loan, which is possibly the best option for loans if needed. And these are when the federal government pays the interest of a subsidized loan while the student is enrolled at least half the time, 6 months after graduation, or a period of deferment when the government approves that period. There's also unsubsidized loans, which you have to be careful for because you may easily fall behind on your interest payments. Here, you will have to pay interest throughout your years of schooling, and if you do not pay, that interest will accrue and be added to your principal balance of your loan. Lastly, there are private loans, which Parliament does not recommend. They're often from big corporate banks that hand out at very high interest loans for students. Now, I can go in depth about these loans myself, but I feel like a better person to talk about this is the financial literacy coordinator, Victoria Lipscomb, who our Vice Chair Brent has kindly volunteered to interview. So here they are now.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Brent. I am the Vice Chair of Kresge Parliament.
Hi, I'm Victoria Lipscomb. I'm the Financial Literacy Coordinator in SlugCents, which is the financial literacy program within Student Business Services.
Well, thank you for coming in today. We really value your input, and we want to see what students are really frequently asking, and sometimes it's hard to really find that information. So I want to thank you for being here.
Of course, I'm so excited to be here. I mean, a main part of my role is answering questions like these for students. So I think this will be a great way to get these big questions out of the way for everyone. And of course, in the future, SlugCents is always available to answer any sort of questions students have related to financials. So I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess the first question is, a lot of students, when they first get their financial aid package, they want to know the difference between a subsidized loan and an unsubsidized loan, and what type of loan would help students in the long term.
So the main difference, really the only difference between a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan has to deal with interest. So as you know, with any loan, you're going to have to end up paying extra interest on top of what we call the principal, or the actual amount that you borrow. And subsidized loans are given by the government, and at UCSC we also have a subsidized loan called the university loan. And what that means for a subsidized loan is while you're in school and during your grace period, which I'll explain a grace period in a second, when you're in your grace period, no interest accrues on that loan. So it's basically like it's frozen until you get out of school and then start repaying it. Unsubsidized loan gains interest starting the moment that loan disperses. So you may end up paying extra hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars in interest, depending on how large your loan is, because that interest accrues while you're in school. I did mention a grace period, and so what a grace period is once you leave school, whether you graduate or take a semester or leave school completely, if you don't plan on returning to school, you will enter your grace period. And that grace period is just kind of a length of time so you can get on your feet, get into a career or a job. And then at the end of that grace period is when you'll start repaying your loan. So for government loans, that grace period is 6 months. And for most private loans, that is 6 months as well. Some loans are different. Our university loan is a 9-month grace period. So in a subsidized loan, during the time you're in school and during that grace period, no interest accrues. An unsubsidized loan, interest accrues during that whole period of time. So for most students, well, all students, subsidized loans, if you can get them, are the best option. That said, subsidized loans are usually given to students with financial need, so many students may not see those in their financial aid package, depending on if they qualify or not.
I see. Well, I did not know that starting out my freshman year. I learned a little bit later on. But yeah, this is like very important for students who are just coming in and they are receiving their financial aid packages right about now, actually. And it's very important to know the difference. Thank you.
Definitely.
So it brings us to our next question. If you did receive a financial aid refund, knowing that because everyone has moved remotely, housing costs are no longer on the table, dining costs are no longer on the table, so the financial aid refunds financial aid exceeds the need of financial aid. So would that refund be taxed as income?
So not necessarily. All of your financial aid, including the amount that isn't refunded to you, may be taxable. I'm going to break it down by the categories of financial aid, which is probably the easiest way to understand them. So loans are never ever taxable since you end up repaying them. If you are on campus and you have work study is always taxable since it is earned income. Now that won't be in your refund because work study is kind of its own little thing, but that's just for future knowledge. Scholarships and grants may be taxable depending on what they're used for. If they're used for costs only associated with college, like tuition and school fees, that money is never taxable. If the money is used for expenses you would have even if you weren't in school, like food or housing, that money's taxable. So, for example, because I know it's a little bit confusing, if you have a grant that pays your tuition and fees and you have a loan to pay for housing and other expenses, that would not ever be taxable, no matter if that loan went to on-campus housing or went back to you as a refund that you then spent on rent and food. But if it was all scholarships and grants, and you used it for housing and food, technically that income would be considered taxable. That being said, if you're considered a dependent for tax purposes, so if a family member or guardian or somebody else claims you on their taxes, they will be the ones claiming this income if it's taxable. So every year by early February, usually they're supposed to be sent out in late January, you will receive a tax form called a 1098-T from the university. This form will help you figure out how much of your financial aid is taxable. So if you're an independent, when you do your taxes, you'll use this form. Otherwise, you can just hand this form over to the person who claims you on their taxes, and they'll have that information.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did not know that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering. I was wondering that if the IRS was going to knock on my door.
They shouldn't be knocking on your door. Now, if you get a huge refund, they still probably won't knock on your door, but I would just be careful and definitely look at that 1098-T, because it'll show you what your qualified expenses are, and the qualified expenses are what's not taxable. So that'll be like your tuition fees and things.
I see. Okay. And can we use that refund now that we know that it's safe to have it? Can that refund be placed in a savings account?
Yes, so you can place that money in a savings account. Financial aid refunds are meant to help you pay for expenses related to your school. So that's food, transportation, housing, books, other expenses, maybe medical expenses. If you don't need that money right away, you can definitely save it for an emergency when you may not have money to cover those types of expenses. So it's definitely okay to place it in a savings account.
Okay, awesome. I was my interests in keeping that financial aid refund, as well as representing students, is very important, because some people they get this money, then they go they go buy like a lot of food, which is understandable, but then it might seem that it's not wasted in a sense, but there's a lot of option to do with that refund. It's like, it's very enticing.
Yeah, definitely. I just like to think of it as, it's there to help you get through school, and your school is more than just the first few weeks. So if you think, okay, I have $1,000 refund, and right now I'm living at home, but I pay for my own groceries. So maybe I use my refund solely to pay for groceries every week. Anything that helps you get in the mindset of, this is to last me through the whole quarter. So, you don't have to spend it right away. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door asking for your bank statements to make sure that you spent that right away. It's up to you to use for your expenses as needed.
All right. Thank you. So that kind of, not really, but it kind of brings me to my next question. Whenever I check my UCSC, I always see Student Business Services and the Financial Aid Office, and I want to know exactly what may be the difference between the two.
Yeah, so the financial aid department reviews your financial aid eligibility, helps you if you have the FAFSA or if you use the DREAM Act application. They create your financial aid offer and they package your financial aid. Student Business Services handles just about everything after that, from dispersing your refund, collecting payments for your bills, and helping you understand your bill and payment options. So if you have a question about your scholarship, grant, or federal loan, or if you think your financial aid package is not right, you contact financial aid. If you have a question about paying your bill or how your refund will get to you, or anything related to that sort of world, you should contact Student Business Services.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And with regards to the financial aid office, if you're eligible for a certain scholarship, how would you report that?
As in, like an outside scholarship not offered by the university?
Yeah.
So they should have, in the portal, they should have a way to let them know that you have a private scholarship. I don't know the steps exactly, but they should have something on their website. They have a lot of video tutorials on how to do things like that. So that should definitely be something that they have on their website to help walk you through.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, in more your perspective, what are some common things you wish students knew about finance while they're in college here at Santa Cruz?
Yeah, so the main one is, just because you're offered a loan does not mean you have to take the loan. If your financial aid is a combination of grants, scholarships, and loans, and your grants and scholarships cover your college expenses, or you have maybe family support or your own money to pay for college, you can decline your loans, or you can accept a partial amount. So you don't have to accept everything. Taking out a loan means you end up paying a lot of extra money in the long run due to interest. So if you can avoid it, that's awesome. That being said, taking out a loan is not the worst thing you could do. If that's the only way you can afford school while also taking care of your mental and physical health, take the loan. Don't overwork yourself with multiple jobs or a full-time schedule while also taking classes if you don't have to. While not being in debt is a great feeling, your health should always be your first priority. Also, the best time to start saving money is right now. Even if that's stashing $5 a month or even $1 a month, getting in the habit of saving part of your income will be invaluable as you get older. Try to save in case of emergency, but also save for a goal you have in life, because that'll make it easier to save your money if you remind yourself it's for something you want to spend it on, like a car or a vacation or something similar. Finally, the university in Santa Cruz offers a lot of resources for students to help them get through school. We have multiple food pantries, emergency funding, community housing information, and so many different unique resources. These resources can help make your money go further and can provide safety and security. Many students qualify for CalFresh, which is a benefit of up to $200 a month for groceries, and you get that on what's similar to a debit card. So you don't have to get through college alone. There's a lot of support here for you, and we all want our students to succeed. Everyone in every department is concerned and wanting to make sure that we help our students. So that being said, SlugCents has a list of resources on our webpage, which is on the Student Business Services website. This list isn't exhaustive, and we continue to add to it when we find new resources, but it's a great starting point for students, especially if you are on or near campus.
Extremely well said. I agree with everything, yes. There are so many resources on campus that it's a little bit overwhelming at first, but it's a community binding experiences, really.
Definitely. There's resources for anything you could possibly want or need, which is so great. But there definitely is a lot. So it may take you some time to find resources, but that's what myself and other departments are here to do. We offer referrals and resources, and we can connect you with things that you may not even know are out there. So definitely talk to somebody if you want help trying to find the resources that are best for you.
Yeah. So going a little bit farther back to one of our previous questions, how are the financial aid office and the student business services operating during the remote instruction? There's only about 1,000 students on campus currently, so services have moved from a more telehealth model, or sorry, not telehealth model, but just more of a customer service model, your traditional customer service model. So how what's the operation currently?
Yeah, so instead of having an open office, we've moved to online servicing for students. So Student Business Services is offering remote services mainly through Zoom, also through phone and email. So we actually have Zoom hours, 10 a.m. to noon, that's Pacific time, Monday through Friday. And then our phones are answered 9 through noon and 1 through 4, Monday through Friday, and our emails are answered during that same amount of time. So we definitely are trying to be as open as we can be to make sure that we get connected with students and help them if needed. Definitely Zoom and phone are probably the easiest ways to get in touch with us. That being said, financial aid is also available by phone and email. When we're recording this, they are also offering Zoom hours. Now, I don't know if that will continue into the whole quarter, but they keep their information completely updated on their website. So going on the financial aid website would be the best way to see, the easiest way to get in contact with them.
Okay. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, like I said, there's only 1,000 students on campus. We're in the middle of a pandemic. An open office isn't necessarily advisable right now.
Yeah, so we're definitely trying our best to make sure that we are still accessible to all students. So hopefully phone, email, and Zoom covers all our bases. Um, so if anybody still needs to get in contact with us and that doesn't work, then that would be something that we could explore if any students need to reach out to us about that. But we're hoping that Zoom, phone, and email should hopefully fit everybody's needs.
Yes, yes. Lastly, I just want to end off with one more question. It's more about your perspective. How does one begin to pay off their loans while in college? And if you have any tips on that.
Yeah, so if you have loans that you want to start paying off on, that's great. I don't want anyone to feel like there's pressure to pay them off while you're in college. You have a lot of things to focus on, so it's not the end of the world if you can't. But if you can, start small and pay off what you're able to. Don't be upset with yourself if you aren't able to pay off as much as you would like. Even if you pay $5 or $10 a month, you'll save on interest and you'll make a great dent in what you owe. For an example, when I was in college, I had a student loan that was about $3,000. And while I was in school, that loan was gaining interest about $30 a month. So if you think I'm in school for 4 years, that's a lot of money. I was able to pay $25 a month. So then I really saved a lot on interest. And then if we talk about compound interest, I saved a lot of money, because the more interest there is, the more you end up paying, because compound interest is magical and not always great when it's on a loan that you owe on. So definitely try and pay what you can, but if you can't, it'll be okay.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I was taking out those somewhat big loans are like really daunting, and then your first pathway is like, okay, how do I pay this? And it's not really the right environment, because you're here to learn. You're not here to stress too much over learning, trying to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So hopefully SlugCents is here to help. If anyone has any specific questions on paying off their student loans early or figuring out a budget or payment that works for them, that's what we're here for and what I'm here for. But like you said, you're here to learn, you're here to succeed in school. And if stressing about your loan payment makes that incredibly difficult for you, or it makes it more difficult for you than it should be, don't worry about it. Just push it out of your mind while you're in school and think about it when you get closer to graduation, because I wouldn't want anybody having a hard time in school because they're worried about their money. That's what I'm here to help.
Yes, thank you. And that concludes really all our questions here. I want to thank you for coming in and giving us your expertise and your tips and your perspective on finance throughout college and what that means to students, really.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad I could be here and talk with you. I know these topics are really, really confusing, and it's really hard to grasp, especially if you're not sitting down with somebody looking at examples and numbers. SlugCents is available through the Student Business Services website, and we also are on social media at UCSC SlugCents. We post a lot of tips, and we also have contests and workshops and a lot of other events. So if any students are interested, they should definitely follow us and reach out, and we will help in any way that we can.
Yeah, I just want to say that this was really scratching the surface. It can go deeper than this, and if y'all are more interested in finance, I highly suggest what Victoria has already explained. Go follow them, go be more involved with them. I highly suggest it.
Awesome. Thank you, Brent.
Yeah.